Greetings and welcome to Puranic Cosmology from the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, we're pretty far along. We're pretty far along. We're almost through the first chapter of this thing, so it would be good to review and then take it slow on the new material. Reading Samurai. Let's do that. So I have a new little graphic here. So it begins by describing the Bhum Mandala. So one of the important things to realize is that a mandala is a collection of things around a center. And what it's describing is what it looks like on the screen right now. A collection of rotating spaces within rotating spaces. And that's what forms the mandala, which means the circle or the sphere or the disc or whatever. But in this case, it's not the Bhu is described as a globe at the center of the mandala, which is a disc-like collection of things orbiting it. Of course, there's a discussion of heliocentric versus geocentric, which we've had many times before. It is geocentric by subjectivity, but heliocentric by nature. And this is what it means when it says there's space. Spaces concentrically orbiting within spaces. It looks a lot like something I'm sure most of you are very familiar with. Maybe the solar system. So then, the next thing that it discussed was the Earth, the Bhu itself. Surprise, surprise, it's not a flat Earth system, it's a spherical Earth system. You need to find the center of it as something called Meru. And then three latitudes, 3 lines, 3 circles going north from it, each one getting consistently smaller. Again, I'm not trying to present this material for the first time right now. We're just reviewing what we already did, so I'm not justifying any explanations or anything like that. If you need that kind of stuff, it's there on my channel page in the recordings of the previous live streams. The 3 circles going up from Meru, each one getting successively smaller, making a dome, and then the 3 circles going down from Meru, each one getting successively smaller, making the other half of the dome, which means the sphere, making like the other dome. So together that makes the sphere. And then there's also latitude and longitudes. And then he goes ahead and he names all these things, and we explored what the names are and how interesting that is in terms of Earth's basic geography and weather patterns, how it matches. So what the Bhagavatam described for Bhu is a sphere with a latitude, longitude coordinate system. And it's a spinning sphere. That's how you get the longitudes. They're the continuous horizon, like the horizon, and that the part that was the horizon a minute ago now moves a minute closer towards you because it's spinning. And you can mark those divisions as longitudes. Gave names for them that give away what they are and all that. Very interesting stuff, but this is just a quick review of it. The next thing he discussed was now projecting out from Bhu. So remember, Bhu is centered on Ilavrita. Ilavrita is centered on Meru. Ilavrita is like the equator, and Meru is the core of the Earth itself. In some uses of the word Ilavrita, it seems to refer to the whole Earth, where Bhu refers to the bigger system of the Bhu Mandala. But in other cases, when Bhu means Earth, then Ilavrita means equator. Where Bhu means Bhu Mandala, then Ilavrita means Earth. So the next thing he taught, he being Shuka, the next thing that he taught was there's now that you have a center, you have a sense of north, up, down, and left and right from that center. So you have north, south, east, and west. And now when you project, hang on, somebody has a comment. There's a white noise covering my voice. I don't know what to do about it, especially since I can't hear it. It's really bad then. I don't know what to do about that. Now there's north, south, east, and west. So if we project those out from the Earth into space, we get these 4 markers. It's quite loud. Yeah, I can't hear it. I have no monitor for it. Hang on a second. Let's see what kind of disaster we make now. How's that? And then let's check this again. Is it now? Did it get any better or worse? No change for the moment. How interesting. I've been betrayed. Okay, how's that? So sorry to everybody for that first bit of that audio visual blunder where it was on my laptop microphone. Anyway, continuing right along, the projection of the 4 cardinal directions into space gives you these 4 markers, or avastambas. And those are called, and those are named. These are actually let's not explain what they are yet. Atop each one is a particular flag or tree, which is showing what the thing is. There's a mango at the top, at the north one. There's a rose apple at the bottom. There's a kadamba at the east, and there's a banyan at the west. So these are actually the northern solstice, southern solstice, eastern equinox, and western equinoxes. And these are the anchor points for the ecliptic, which is the zodiac. So this was the next thing that he described. And going further than that, he described zones within these quadrants. This was last week's live stream. He described that there's lakes and parks between each mountain, between each avastamba, between each pillar or waypoint. And so that gives us these 12 divisions of the ecliptic, which we're all familiar with. And also, the meaning of the word lake is fixed. The meaning of the word park is to oscillate, to walk around. And the meaning of the word avastamba is to begin something, to get something started. So these are actually the cardinal, fixed, and dual segments of the zodiac. So that's what we have learned, that this is really what the Bhagavatam cosmology is teaching, something very universal and consistent and not contradicted by any observation, ancient or modern. Now, new material. So now we'll begin with the new material, and we'll have to read something for that. So let us do that. If you guys would have said, the microphone sounds terrible, then I would have guessed it more quickly. Who's that from Croatia? Light. Greetings to Croatia. All right, so let's see what's the new stuff. Today we're going to cover 15 through 25. Now, do you remember when he described the lakes? that are in the ecliptic, he said the demigods, like the lower divinities, the sub-divinities, they get mystic power, they get potency by bathing ceremoniously in these lakes. And what that means is that if you worship or pay attention to, respect the movement of the sun through the zodiac, through the ecliptic, and you perform the ceremonies that are prescribed per the Sankrantis, to where the sun passes these various points. When the sun passes Avashtamba, or a pillar, when the sun passes a lake, when the sun passes into a park, there's certain things you should do to honor that. And by honoring that, you get potency. So what that basically means is by being in tune with nature, you stay healthy. Now, he's going to elaborate on that concept now in this 15th text. So he says, Yeshu Amara Paribridha Sahasura Lalana Lalama Yuta Pataya Upadeva Ganayar Upagiyamana Mahimana Kila Viharanti. The invigorated immortals enjoy themselves in those lakes. What lakes? Those lakes. The lakes from last week that we talked about. Like masters decorated by flocks of divine lovers. So master, like a shepherd, decorated by flocks of divine lovers, while hosts of sub-divinities avidly sing their praises. So this is really, it's like something that you could easily pass over. I might easily pass over it and just think that it's kind of inconsequential to the cosmology. But it's actually something that's super, super important. So let's just look at it real carefully for a second. In those lakes, Amara Parivridha, the best of the immortals, they enjoy those lakes. That's where they vihara, they enjoy. And then the other immortals, they're glorifying them. Enjoy what? Enjoy plain old life. They enjoy sex. That's basically what they're saying here, like masters decorated by flocks of divine lovers. They enjoy happiness, regular stuff. So what is this talking about? He's talking about the ecliptic. Why is he making up this story about lakes? Well, one of the reasons is that the word lake actually means a fixed zone, hrida. But another reason is that lakes are something holy that are worshipped, and that he's trying to explain in his poetic way that if you worship the zodiac, if you worship the ecliptic, which doesn't necessarily mean saying a prayer to it or lighting a candle to it, but means respecting it and paying attention to it, then you prosper. And if you don't, then you decline. So the concept behind this is really important. What you have to understand is that actions, how should I explain it? The first thing I want to explain is, how does time move? How does time work? Time is some kind of a machine, but it has no gears, it has no wheels, it has no physical apparatus. So how does it work? Time moves by changing things. And so changes in things are the way that we perceive the movement of time. Changes of things are the way that we perceive the movement of time. You got that? Now, the easiest kind of change to perceive is physical. So the easiest way to perceive time is by physical changes in the physical world. And the easiest kind of physical change to perceive is movement. When things change their position in relationship to each other, it's easiest to tell that something has changed. And this is why the orbit of the sun around Meru, which is the center of the Earth, the equator, passing through these 4 points, those 2 solstices and 2 equinoxes, is the way that time announces itself to us. It's the change in position of a big, gigantic object that moves at a constant rate. This thing has been moving at a constant rate for millions, maybe billions of years. It's the greatest clock. So this movement of the sun through the ecliptic is the clock. It's the real clock. And a clock is really important because a clock describes time. And now, why is time important? Because you can't get anything done without time. You can't get any effect from any action that you perform. So karma is inherently interwoven with and dependent upon kala. Karma or action is inherently woven up with time. You can't act if there's not time. And time is that way that the action transitions into a result. This is what he's talking about right here. He's saying that the viharant, the ability to enjoy the results of your actions, comes because of the sun moving through this orbit, through these 4 waypoints. That is the philosophical, fundamental, mechanistic foundation of astrology. Please understand that. And I've explained it in more detail in a book that I published several years ago called The Beautifully Rational Philosophy of Astrology, which you can get on Amazon anytime you want. The basic rational proposal here is that action is dependent on time. Therefore, understanding time, we understand action and the results of action. In other words, understanding time, we understand destiny. So it's what he's saying is the sun's movement through these lakes and parks and waypoints is the practical manifestation of time, and time is the bestower of results. So everyone from the greatest gods, Amara Parivrid, the greatest gods, who have parivrid, who have fructified, matured, their actions, they enjoy results from these lakes, from these parks, from these pillars. Everything that we get in our life comes from time and goes back into time. So we should worship time. And there's no better worship of time than observance of a clock. And there's no better clock than the zodiac and the sun. And then he says that the sub-gods are looking at the bigger gods and praising them. This is just explaining that the better your deeds, the better your results. So the better the sun is just moving impartially around Meru. But that movement of the sun around Meru gives different results to different people. To the great gods who are parivrid, who understand what is to be done and what is not to be done, the movement of the sun gives them immense enjoyments. They're like masters in the midst of orbiting lovers. But to the sub-divinities like ourselves, the best we can do is look up to them and think, well, we should try to emulate their actions. Do you understand? So that's what's so important about the zodiac. That's the basis of why astrology is what it is. That's why he's talking about these lakes and the worship of these lakes. That's the importance of the ceremonies like Samkrantis. And he's going to further describe the kind of fruits now. The kind of fruits or results that can be enjoyed while the sun passes through these different zones. And by doing so, he's going to describe the fundamental quality of each particular quadrant of the zodiac. So it's really, really interesting. Everybody understand? Everybody, I thought you would love that. Okay, so now let's go on and see the rest of what he says. Let me just see what I have written here and make sure I didn't forget anything. The ecliptic is the primary marker measuring the passage of time. Time is the entity that causes actions to fructify into results. Therefore, everyone from humans, aka the sub-gods, to the most powerful gods, invigorated immortals, enjoy the results of their actions in concert with the sun's movement through the various zones of the ecliptic. Humans look up to and praise the gods because the progress of time awards the gods the result of flawless actions. Okay, now, he's going to describe the kind of results that you get in the different areas of the zodiac, the different areas of the ecliptic. Remember, the ecliptic is this path. The sun moves between these 4 way markers, 2 solstices, 2 equinoxes, through 4 fixed zones and 4 dual zones as well. All right. He says, Mandarot Sangha Ekadasha Shatta Yojana Uttunga Devachuta Shirasha Girishikara Stulani Palani Amrita Kalpani Patanti. Now get ready for this, because this is heavy, this is really poetry. So you can see how far crazy people can go if they refuse to realize that Shuka is describing a real universe. But he says, remember he said that the 4 pillars at the 4 poles, easternmost, westernmost, northernmost, southernmost extents of the sun's orbit around Meru, the 4 pillars at those poles, he said, had trees atop them, which characterized the nature of the sun at that pole. Remember that? Now he says, from the top of the celestial mango tree, so that's the northern solstice, the top of that tree, 1100 yojana above the peak of Mount Mandara. Mandara is the marker of the northern solstice. Fruits of immortality fall, as fat as mountains. So he's saying from this achut tree, which means the tree that has things fall off it, which is why it's the northern solstice. From that tree, big gigantic fruits. This tree is humongous. It's celestial. It's cosmic. And it has these gigantic mangoes fall off it. Teisham Vishiryamarnanam Ati Madhura Surabhi Sugandhi Bahularuna Raso Denarunoda Namanadi Mandaragiri Shikharan Nipatanti Purven Elavritam Upaplavayati. When they fall, they produce a flood of red juice. Very sweet, potent, red-orange juice. Very sweet, potent, and fragrant. This becomes the orange river, Arunoda. Falling from the peaks of Mount Mandara. Falling from the peak of Mount Mandara to the beginning of Ilavrita and turning right there. So, Purvena Ilavritam, when it gets to the earth, then it turns towards the east. It falls from Mandara. It's falling from the north, and when it gets to the earth, it turns east. Actually, okay. Yad upajoshanat bhavanya anucharinam punya jana vadhunam avayava sparsha sugandhavato dasha yojanam samantad anuvasayanti. By enjoying that river, the very auspicious maidservants of goddess Bhavani become fragrant. The wind perfumes everything around them in a 10 yojana radius. So look what he painted, this beautiful picture that is amazing, and that this beautiful picture is an actual accurate description of the ecliptic. But it's such a compact, beautiful metaphor. The metaphor is from the top of this pillar, this gigantic tree, mango tree, the mangoes fall, and all that juice splatters and forms a river, an orange river, Arunoda. And that river falls from the peak, and then when it comes to Ilavrita, it flows to the west. To the east. These fruits carry the power of immortality. Remember that? And when people bathe in this river, they become very fragrant and potent. What was some of the things? It's very fragrant. So when you bathe in it, you become very fragrant. It's very potent. Immortality gives very great potency. And it's very sweet and very fragrant. So the maidservants of Bhavani, it's also very important to understand. Who's Bhavani? Bhavani is Prakriti or Parvati, Sati, Shiva's consort, Rudrani. We'll put all these pieces of the puzzle together in a bit. We'll undecode the metaphor in a second, but first let's just get the metaphor. When her maidservants bathe in this river, they become so potent that when the wind blows over them, the fragrance of the river spreads around for miles and miles and miles. All right, so that describes a river falling off the northern solstice, the northern pillar in the equinox. Let's hear about the next thing he says. The southern. Evam jambu palanam atyucha nipata vishirnanam anasti prayanam ipakaya nipanam rasena jambu nama nadi merumandara shikarat ayut yojanad avanitale nipatanti dakshinenatmanam yavat ilavritam upasyandayati. Meru Mandara's huge rose apple fruits also fall from great heights and break. So he's saying the same thing that happens on Meru, on Mandara, also happens on Meru Mandara, which is the southern marker. That one has the rose apple fruits, the fruits that are shaped like a pear, heavy at the bottom, that bloom in the winter. So those guys, they also fall and they release juice just like the mangoes did, and that forms something called Rose Apple River. Rose Apple River is Jambu Nadi. And this river flows I didn't edit this. This river falls, Patanti, to Ilavrita, and then turns left there. So notice the word left. Left and right is almost the same as east and west, but left and right is not related to the sun, but related to you. It's the same way. This is really the difference between people get hung up about northern, southern hemisphere and what does that do to all the zodiac theory and everything. It does absolutely nothing to it. Because southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, and your weather is just like left and right. But the southern solstice and northern solstice and the sun rising or setting above Meru is like east and west, north and south. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it makes sense to me. So anyway, notice that here he said it turns left. What word is there for left? But he says it's to the dakshina, which generally means left, but he includes the word atmanam. Its own dakshina, which means to the left. Okay? So, from the... Yeah, and dakshina also means from the south. Because Meru is situated in the south. So we should say, it falls to Ilavrita from the south. Okay, so it falls to Ilavrita from the south, and then when it arrives at Ilavrita, it flows to the left. Don't worry, we'll do visual aids on this and make sense of it. Tavad upayorapi rodhashurya mritika tad rasenanu vidyamana vaivarka samyoga vipakena Sadamara loka bharanam jambunadam nama suvarnam bhavati. Wherever it flows, it saturates the soil in both directions from its bank. Catalyzed by the wind and the sun, the soil produces roseapple gold, something called roseapple gold, which always adorns the immortals. So that other river from the north, it was characterized by immortality, potency, pleasure, fragrance, and the goddess Bhavani and her associates bathe in it. Whereas the one from the south, it's connected with gold. It creates gold, and the other gods, not Bhavani, not Shiva's class of gods. The other gods, they like that, and they go and they get this gold to decorate themselves with. Yadu havava vibuddhadaya saha yuvatadibir mukta kartaka kati sutradi abharana rupena khalu dharayanti. The wise gods eagerly collect it to make beautiful ornaments like crowns, bracelets, and belts for themselves and their spouses. So you could see they're collecting things, decorating themselves with things. So that's the nature of the south. You will wind up knowing, by listening to this carefully and having patience, you'll wind up learning the 4 quadrants of the zodiac and what they are particularly powerful for, and also as a result, the 4 cardinal directions and what those are particularly powerful for and associated with. And that, by the way, is the basis for you understanding why Aries is a fire sign and not a water sign, or any of the signs are the elements that they are. So this is really important stuff for understanding the basic mechanics of the fundamentals of astrology. Now, Eastern. Now, he says Eastern is a little bit different. Yes, too. Eastern and Western are a little bit different than North and South, because North and South are solstices, East and West are equinoxes, and in the symbolism, North and South are fruit trees. But East and West are not known for their fruit. The West is a banyan, and the East is a kadamba. Banyan is known for its wood. Really, it's wood and its leaves. And kadamba is known for its flowers. So there's not going to be rivers of juice coming from these trees. Yastu mahakadamba suparshva nirudhoyas tasya kotarebhyo vinishta panchayama parinaha pancha madhudharana supashva shikarat patantyo aparenatmanam ilavratam But the great burrflower tree rising on Mount Suparshva emits 5 wide streams of honey. So the Kadamba tree, it doesn't have big fruits, but it has big flowers. That means that the bees will make a lot of honey with it. So from the Kadamba tree, a lot of honey comes. Valentine's Day. Eastern equinox. It means 5 wide streams of honey, and they flow from the peak of Mount Suparshva westward. You have to put in falling, actually. They fall because it's patanti. They fall from the peak of Mount Suparshva westward and flow westward to Ilavrita, turning left there, the lighting as they go. Turning left again, this time it's Aparena Atmanam, to one's own west, to one's own left. Ya hyupayunjana mukto nirvasito vayu samantach chattayojanam anuvasayati. The breath from the mouth of those who drink these streams perfumes the air for 100 yojana all around. And then finally the western. This one is very, very, very interesting. I mean, I think you guys will like this one. Evam kumuda nirudho. So that's Kumuda mountain. Kumuda pillar is the western equinox. Evam kumuda nirudho ya shatavalsho nama vartas. Tasya skandhebhyo nichina payodadi madhugrita gudhanadi ambara shayanasana bharanadaya sarveva kamadugga. Nada kumudagrat patantastam uttarene lavritam upayojayanti. Similarly, rivers fall from the trunks of the banyan, named 100 trunks. The name of the banyan is 100 trunks. Shatavalsha, which rises atop Mount Kumuda. It falls to Ilavrita from the west. Does it say from the west? No, it doesn't. It says Kumudagarat. From Kumuda, it falls to Ilavrita and then veers northward. See, here it says Tam Uttarena Ilavritam. It doesn't say Atmanam. It doesn't say to its north. It just says to the north. It falls to Ilavrita and veers northward. Okay, so the tree in the east, it had flowers, so it made honey. The tree in the north had mangoes, so it made mango juice. The tree in the south had rose apples, so it made rose apple juice. You know, let me just see something. Exactly. Thank you, Inima Delup. Similarly, rivers from the... So this tree that's in the west, it's a banyan. Banyans are really just known for their shade. And the wood, they make a ton of wood, and they have big shaded leaves. So there's a lot of moisture coming out of this tree. That's what's coming out of this tree, and it makes 100 rivers. It falls to Ilavrita and veers northward. People use these rivers to get anything and everything they desire. Sarvaiva kamaduk. This is the important thing about this direction. From things like water, milk, honey, ghee, molasses, and grains to things like clothing, furniture, and ornaments. How can you get milk from water? It's easy. You feed a cow or a goat. And that's how you can get honey, you can grow flowers, you can get ghee, you can get molasses from having good water. And then how do you get clothing? From growing stuff like cotton or trees. You can use the bark and make it into cloth. Furniture you get from the trees, etc., etc. So from the western direction flows water, which is extremely useful for fulfilling any desire. Now look at what he says about the people using this water. Yan upajusharnam nakadachid api prajanam vali palita klama swedak dorgandya jaramaya mrityu shitoshna vaivarnyopasargadayas tapavishesh bhavanti yavat jivam sukham niratshayam eva. People who use these rivers never even get wrinkles or gray hair. They feel no fatigue, have no body odor, and do not suffer any symptoms of old age, like illness and sudden death. Their hardy bodies are not affected by cold or heat. Their entire lifespan is without suffering and full of immeasurable happiness. That is so interesting from the West to get these effects from the river that flows from the West. Okay, so now you've heard the whole metaphor. Now it's time to make some sense out of what this is saying and explain what it means to the quadrants of the zodiac and to the 4 cardinal directions. TK? But I mean, look at that right there. The people never get wrinkles or gray hair. Bam. You just put 7,000 cosmetics companies out of business. No, actually, all those cosmetics companies are getting the potency because of worshiping the stuff that happens to the west of the zodiac. So let's talk about this. I will show you now the visuals of what he described and what it means to us. Okay, so this is, remember the first one that he described was the Orange River. Flowing from the northern hemisphere, right? Flowing from the northern solstice. So he said it falls down, patanti, or nipat. It falls down from the solstice point to Bu. And then when it hits Ilavrita, when it hits the earth, it flows towards the east of it. So that's what this orange line here, that's what this river is doing. Nipat right now, and then Purvena. One more time because this animation is fun. Nipat, it's falling, and then it hits and goes Purvena, turns east. So this northern solstice has this quality of the mango juice, and that mango juice quality covers all those 3 zones, Gemini, Taurus, and Aries, all the way to the east Ilavrita, which is the eastern equinox. Now let's just get the map of where these rivers are falling, and then let's talk about what these rivers, what the potency is in the rivers, because that will tell us what these quadrants symbolize and what the cardinal directions symbolize. The next thing he talked about was the Rose Apple River. Again, it falls and then turns when it touches the earth. So it falls from the southern solstice pillar to Bu, and then Atmadakshina turns left. So it looks like that. So you can see the effects. This is really brilliant stuff. Once you know all this and it sinks in, you'll be amazed by how useful this information is. From the southern solstice, it hits at the southern point and then moves west, not east. So just remember later, there's a connection from east to north and a connection from south to west primarily. You can also connect west to north and east to south. But the primary trees is the north and the south solstice. That's the primary energy there. Now the secondaries are these two equinoxes. The third one is the one he described, the honey. From the kadamba tree, the flower tree, the honey, first it falls, nipat, and then it atma aparena, turns left. So it's falling, hitting the earth, and then turning left, which would mean it's moving south. You see that? I'm going to show you one more time so you can understand what left means. Falling, this is now turning to its left, atma aparena. And then he described finally the western equinox, which is the 100 water rivers. They fall from the western equinox, and when they hit, they uttarena, they just turn north. So that covers up the whole circle, covers up the whole globe, and it spreads out the qualities through the quadrants. So you might ask, why, if a planet goes past into Cancer, then it's getting now affected by the water rivers. It's in the zone of the watery rivers from Mount Kumuda. So anything from Cancer, Leo to Virgo, it's going to have a flavor of being associated with Kumuda. Why? Why doesn't it have, when it's at Cancer, that's where the northern solstice is. Why isn't it affected by mangoes in Cancer? But mangoes, on the other hand, is the 3 signs leading up to Cancer. Right? Mango juice. So that's because what the Avashtamba means is the beginning of a journey, and what cardinality means is to set a direction, to set a goal. And that's the nature of cardinal signs, is to set a goal. To have goals is cardinal. So when, for example, a planet enters Aries, Aries is not its goal. Aries is where it's starting from. The beginning of Cancer becomes that planet's goal. So from Aries, this mango tree becomes the goal. And then Taurus is where it has to become really dedicated to the goal. And then Gemini is where it starts to sort of enjoy the goal and think about maybe there's another goal. I'm coming up on another thing, I'll set a new destination. So you understand that's why they spread in this direction counter to the sun's movement. That's why the rivers turn in that direction. Now, the thing to talk about now is, what the hell does the mango symbolize? What does the water symbolize? What does the rose apple symbolize? What does the honey symbolize? It's easy, because he described that. That was his whole point of giving all the poetry about how the mango is so fragrant and invigorating, and how it's associated with Bhavani, and how the rose apple makes gold and it's associated with gods and their decorations, and how the water keeps you alive and keeps you healthy, and how the honey invigorates you or stimulates you. All right, so let's see the qualities of the quadrants. The mango fruit was said to be Amritapala. So it's carrying the power of Amrit, which means deathlessness. So it's carrying potency and life and vitality. And that's the nature that these 3 signs in this quadrant, they share. There's a lot of potency and vitality and life. These signs are not, these 3 signs, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, they're not known as particularly mature. They're not known as lethargic at all. They're very youthful and energetic and passionate. Because that mango is giving Amrit, invigorating. then the other side was the rose apple. And the quality of the rose apple was made Jambu Suvarna, rose apple gold. And the whole thing about that, his whole poetry and story about this particular river is that it turns the dirt into gold. Another thing that's really interesting here is what the southern latitudes were named. Remember that? And the southern latitudes and zones had some nuances of the names that were references to gold. So it's also interesting that it may be the Jambunad that's giving the southern part of the globe more precious metals and jewels, whereas the northern part of the globe has more people and population living in it. But that's how it might pertain to the globe itself. But what we really want to discuss, and what I think he's really discussing primarily, is the type of fruit that you get from the sun in any particular area of the zodiac, because that was the opening statement, was how the gods get their fruits of their actions from the passage of time, which is enunciated and announced by the sun's movement. So when the sun is here in this quadrant, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, then it's in Jambunad. And Jambunad, with the application of sun and wind, which means this movement of the sun through this quadrant, it produces gold. So it's interested in getting money, earning money, getting more wealth, getting more stuff, getting more pleasures. And also it's connected with the West, too, because the south flows to the west, north flows to the east. And then for the honey was described as anumodayanti. Anumoda. Moda or mudda means to delight something or intoxicate it. That's what honey does. Because the honey will ferment very easily, and then you can have all kinds of mead and liquor and everything, and you get mud, intoxicated, drunk. So, but this honey is called anumod. So anumod means to intoxicate or delight something, but anumod means in cooperation. So anumod is about mutual pleasures. So for example, it's not like reading a book by yourself is not anumod, or like playing a one-player game. It's not anumod. Maybe it's mod. But embracing, dancing, conversing, playing a game together, that's anumod. And that's the nature of this quadrant, which stretches from 0 Cancer to 0 Aries, or let's say from 0 Capricorn, to 30 Pisces. And then the final one was the quality of the water, which was called suk. It gives suk, happiness, health, pleasure. This tells you what the nature of the cardinal directions are as well, which is really important. So it tells you that the nature of the north is Amrit. Amrit means no death. And that means immortality or moksha. The quality of the north, everybody thinks heaven is up. Everybody thinks God is up, right? North is up. So the quality of the north, or the up, is to go beyond limitations. Get moksha, amrit, to escape. Amrita literally means to become clean, actually. To get free of dirt. And then the quality to the south is characterized by Suvarna. North was Amrit or Moksha. South is Suvarna or Artha. What does Artha mean? Artha means money. These are the 4 goals of life. The 4th one is Moksha, liberation, enlightenment. The 2nd one is Artha, which means to have as much money as you need, to have as much money as you want, to have as much wealth as you want, not just money. To have as much wealth as you want is Artha. Artha in food, clothes, house, toys, computers, cars. That's Artha. That's south direction, ground, earth, where you dig and you find gold. What would be next? Eastern direction, Dharma. Anumod. Dharma is very... Moksha and Artha are reflections of each other. And Dharma and Kama are reflections of each other. Dharma is really Kama. That's Anumod instead of mode. It's pleasure, mutual pleasure, caring about whether or not the people around you are okay. And you enjoying, they're enjoying, and they enjoying, you're enjoying. That's the nature of Pisces, Aquarius, and even Capricorn. The Capricorn is closest to the south. That's why these lakes, the rivers will accumulate in the lakes. That's why the lakes are located in the fixed signs, which are right in the middle of the zones. And so that leaves the west, as you know, it could only be Kama, the first goal, which is just Sukh. It's just happiness, pleasure, beds, furniture, food. The enjoyment of those things. The things themselves are Artha, but the enjoyment of the things is Kama. And so why is this really important to understanding? As I said, you can understand why Aries is a fire sign, and why Cancer is a water sign, and why Capricorn is an earth sign, and why Libra is an air sign. And if you want to see that explained in full detail, on my channel page, the first playlist on the top is Astrology Beautiful, or Beautiful Astrology, or Astrology is Beautiful, something like that. There's videos in there about the different geometries in the Zodiac. There's one about the elements. You can look at that in detail there. But this is basically why. Because elements carry these 4 properties. Fire is dharmic, earth is artha, water is moksha, and air or wind is kama. Hence the air is in the west, the earth is in the south, the water is in the north, and the fire is in the east. So when you say Aries is a fire sign, it means Aries is at the point of dharma, but it's in the beginning of like vigor and vitality and independence and freedom. So it's past the point. It just passes the point of dharma. So you'll actually find the interest in dharma isn't really coming that much from Aries. It would be more in Sagittarius, the other fire sign. That's where it would be fully matured, because that's where the planet is starting to think about the eastern equinox. These are the real ways that the ancients thought. When I say ancients, I don't mean Pythagoras or Ptolemy. I mean ancients. These are the real ways that the ancients perceived the world, and this is how they understood the symbolism of the clock, of the sun's movement through and the circuit. And this is how they handed down a zodiac to us. So I would highly advise everybody to watch it many, many, many times. Thanks, everybody.